Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
When do you actually get to pray? Allameh Tehrani says, the late Mr. Muṭahharī was very thrilled about his meetings with Mr. Haddad in his trip to holy shrines. Mr. Muṭahharī told me that in one of our meetings, Mr. Haddad asked me, "How do you pray?" I answered, "I am completely heedful of the meanings of the words and sentences that I recite." He said, "So when do you actually get to pray? You should only be heedful of God in prayer. Do not be distracted by the meanings." There are many secrets and sub-definitions in this advice. The truth of the matter is exactly as he said. If one concentrates on the meaning of what he is saying in his prayer, for example, that the meaning of إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ is "Thee alone we worship and Thee alone we ask for help," then his mind and attention is directed towards this meaning instead of being fully attentive to God. One's attention should be 100% focused on God, and God should be the only one that he addresses in prayer. In that case, he will view the meanings of his statements only as a vehicle to connect with God. This is exactly the same as the proper pronunciation of the words and letters. One's attention should not be focused on his pronunciation and recitation, but these words and letters should be uttered only as means and mirrors of what lies beyond them. Otherwise, if one is completely absorbed by making sure that the pronunciation of each letter is uttered from the right place in the mouth or the throat, then his prayer is not really a prayer anymore. Such a prayer is devoid of attention to either God or the meanings of the phrases. Instead, one should be completely absorbed in God and should not slip down from talking and conversing with his Lord. He should not be distracted by either the words or their meanings. If one maintains this, then all of the words and letters are also uttered correctly. In that case, the person naturally realizes the meanings of what he is saying without viewing them independently, but only as means and mirrors. In that case, neither the pronunciation nor the meanings would pose any harm to total presence, heedfulness, and concentration on God. Consider our regular speeches and conversations with one another, including any dialogue, question, answer, debate, discussion, lecture, or sermon. In all of these, our full attention is directed at the person with whom we are speaking, not to the speech itself. At the same time, we express what we have in mind using our tongue in a completely natural way. The words and sentences are structured correctly to convey our message, without ourselves being conscious of this process. Should we turn our attention to the phrases and expressions that are being uttered for a moment, our attention to the actual conversation will be cut off and we would not be addressing the other person anymore. Suppose I tell you, "Sir, don't leave Mashhad today, but stay longer." In doing so, my attention is completely directed at you and your reality. This is called an independent, foremost, or ultimate view. When my attention is focused on you, then the meaning that I intend automatically comes to my mind. My mind unconsciously constructs and formulates an appropriate expression that reflects that meaning, which is finally being uttered by my tongue fluently and without any mistakes. However, if I focus my mind on "don't leave Mashhad today" or think of its letters, then you will no longer be my main and foremost object of attention and address. Instead, you will only be viewed under the light of that meaning or those words. The same goes with prayer, which is the most important conversation. One should be present with God and disconnected from everything else. No thoughts or ideas should cross one's mind in prayer. This is possible only if the phrases and sentences that are uttered, which obviously involve some meaning, come to one's mind and flow on one's tongue without receiving the slightest independent attention. This is the real prayer, where one's conversation is with God, where one's heart is present with Him. Otherwise, the heart would be heedful of the words or their meanings, while God, who should be given precedence over everything, is not viewed at all. He is pushed to a secondary position in the margin, and is beheld only in the light of that primary view.